Vice Dallas Goedert, ball pops out, stall the Eagles' drive early on in the first quarter.
And it sets up this. How about this creative play from the Cowboys offense?
It's not a zone read. It's not a speed option. It's a little bit of a college triple option. You use some motion. You give your quarterback Dak Prescott a give read. You give him a pitch key. And then you get Tavon Austin, still a really good athlete, out in space. Turn the turnover into points for Dallas.
His first rushing touchdown in 2 years, so it's 7-0 Cowboys. Next, Eagles possession. Rex.
DeMarcus Lawrence, hey, he heard your message loud and clear, Doug Peterson. And by the way, he just made a huge play. That Dallas defense was dominant.
And it sets up another touchdown. So right off the bat, as Zeke goes in, now it's 14-0 off of the 2 turnovers. Ensuing possession for the Cowboys, they take advantage. And then the next one, Amari Cooper. Boy, they missed him.
This is called filth. This route by Amari Cooper right here. They motion him over, and it's a sluggo. Slant, turn the head, foot in the ground, and go. Nice throw by Dak, but an absolutely filthy route by Amari Cooper.
So Cooper's got moves, and Zeke says, you know what? So do I. Watch it make people miss.
I wonder what it's like to be in the open field with Zeke Elliott, Brandon Graham, Malcolm Jenkins, overrun. Watch him put his foot in the ground right there, right foot, swim by with Brandon Graham, and continue to feed 21.
So now in the final seconds of the half, the Cowboys are lining up for a 63-yard field goal.
It's the greatest kicker and kick I've ever seen. He's got like 3 over 60. Put him in the Hall of Fame.
There you go, Pat.
That's a good imitation of Pat McAfee. That's well done.
I thought it was Tom Dempsey.
And then finally, here comes Dak Prescott taking it in for a touchdown. I'm the only one at the table who knows who Tom Dempsey was, but the Cowboys run away and hide with a big win.
When your rival makes a statement that they'll win the game and you disprove that, how does that feel?
I told him to shut up, Nana. All right. So what you think he's doing now? Don't ask me about that man no more, bro.
Do you feel like you were overconfident coming into this one?
No, not at all.
Is this the worst loss since you've been here?
It's either 1 or 2, yes.
All right, and so listen, if you think the Cowboys didn't pay attention, clearly they did. You heard DeMarcus Lawrence, and here's Zeke saying, honestly, we don't give a bleep what Doug Peterson says, which obviously means they do. And if you're just joining us, show's been a little crazy today because we had Adam Silver here. So, Rex, you've made a lot of these points about the Doug Peterson guarantee. And then we got into a conversation about how Lane Johnson was complaining in Philadelphia that guys were late for meetings. Yeah. Things seem to be going wrong. And it does beg the question. The one thing we didn't get to in that conversation 15 minutes ago is, this team just looks better when Nick Foles was their quarterback than it does with Wentz. Now listen,
oh, no.
I've come around on Wentz. I think Wentz is a spectacular player. I watch him play, it's spectacular. And yet, they just don't seem to play as well around him. That can't be, or can it be, a coincidence?
No, I mean, I think both things can be true. You know, I think we can sit here and say, man, Carson Wentz is spectacular because he had many plays last night that were spectacular football plays. I would argue he had more really good individual plays than Dak did. Now, Dak probably operated his offense cleaner and more efficiently, and certainly in situational football. But, I mean, that pick is late in the game. The fumble's not on him. The drops, both things could be true, that Carson Wentz is spectacular and that Nick Foles operated this team certainly in situations. I think the Eagles are this, Greeny. The Eagles right now are a team that we all thought was more talented than they actually are, and we lost sight of the big men up front. What happens when you have big men up front, which is what the Eagles have had for years, is it covers up all your other flaws. It covers up your flaws at secondary, and it covers up your flaws at lack of receiver. Well, the Eagles lost some bigs, not only with Chris Long and Michael Bennett, but there's 2 guys, Jason Peters didn't play yesterday, and 2 defensive linemen. Jernigan is hurt. And so the lack of bigs has exposed the flawed back end. Their secondary stinks. Their wide receivers have no juice to get downfield. So listen, we could pound on Carson Wentz all we want. It is not Carson Wentz in Philadelphia right now.
The saddest takeaway, though, is that because of what we saw yesterday, Stephen A. will not be walking in a Cowboy hat. I thought that the Cowboys weren't good and they were a terrible team, and let's just write them off. And Dak Prescott, this is why he hasn't gotten paid. Coach, who is this team? What did you see from them?
You saw the difference when you have your 2 tackles.
Okay.
And these aren't just average tackles. Best left tackle in football and an outstanding right tackle. So to me, you put that back in there. Dak had time to throw the football, did a great job. You talked about it, Dan, earlier in the show. They were more creative. Well, why? Because they're playing at home. That's why you get all these exotic motions, everything else. And they're smart. You're looking at, we saw that the triple option they ran. Because you run the option when you have numbers.
Yep.
That's why you run the option. They know they're playing a cover one. Well, standard runs don't work in it, but the option always does. You always had the numbers in your favor. So they were smart. They did some smart things, but it starts with protection and being able to run the football. If they can do that, they can beat anybody.
Did you just credit Boy Wonder? Kellen Moore for the
Wow.
No, I credited Jason Garrett. You want to credit this Boy Wonder all the time. All it is, I'm gonna credit Jerry Jones for putting this offensive line together. Because believe me, that's where it starts. When you can win in the trenches, which they clearly did. They never won in the trenches. They dominated in the trenches, and that's why they beat this team to sleep.
And the other side of it, and you just said it, like when Zeke Elliott is running the football, they look like a completely different offense, right? When they either don't get him involved or he isn't effective, they look like one thing. And when he's running the ball on first down the way he was last night, they look very difficult to stop.
They handed it to him 21 times on first down last night, and they ran it for over 6.5 yards a carry when they did that. When you get turnovers, when you get field position, and you do that with one of the best backs in football, you're going to score 37 points at home, right? And so the thing for them is, like, don't lose focus of that. It's a fine balance, but when you're able to run the football like that, then that sets up these third downs where you can go make some conversions and you're not behind so much. You don't have to play from a position of safety where you got to be really careful with your play calls. And that's what allowed their third down success. They were 5 of 8 on third downs in the first half. Well, when you're running the ball so well and you get the 3rd and 2 a bunch, I know we like to devalue running back. It still matters.
Oh, heck yeah. You get somebody like that. You win on 1st and 2nd down. That makes those third downs so much more easier. And that's what we saw.
And so the Cowboys and Eagles finished up what was a very interesting Sunday. Where does Dallas fall in the pecking order of the NFC? It's kind of a difficult question, but one thing is sure. Right now, definitely behind Green Bay.
100%. It was an absolute explosion yesterday. Packers taking on the Raiders. First quarter, who would you say is the better Aaron here, Dan? Would it be Rodgers or Jones?
I'm going with the latter, Jones. Incredible ability to turn his body, track the football, and still make that catch. Outstanding by Aaron Jones.
Then let's give some love to Rodgers on this one with his connection to Jake Camaro.
Not bad. Outstanding job of kind of moving that safety back to the middle of the field. A little bit of a honey hole shot down the sideline. Great throw. And Kumaro with extension to that front pylon.
Yeah, and it's who? It doesn't matter who he throws to.
Well, 12 doesn't stink.
No.
Third quarter now, Rodgers connecting with Jimmy Graham. And again, Matt LaFleur said, I am in awe when the ball leaves his hand. His 350th passing touchdown of his career. And then later on, it's Rodgers connecting again with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He had 5 touchdowns through the air, his most since 2015. And oh yeah, by the way, he doesn't even have Devontae Adams, his best target in there as of yet. Rodgers finishing with the numbers he hadn't touched in a handful of seasons, including a career high 13.8 yards per attempt. He also completed 80% of his passes for the first time since week 7 back in 2014, which was the last time Green Bay actually won 12 games in a season. We had seen that this offense was dripping and they were getting better, and then they just exploded. How? Why?
Well, no, it's amazing what happened because we haven't seen it. And all of a sudden, this team's been winning, though. That was the scary thing about it because we all knew it was just a matter of time. That, hey, eventually you put in a new system that, okay, an older quarterback now is going to come on, it's going to have some growing pains. Well, guess what? There ain't no pains now. They were phenomenal. And when you talked about Adams isn't even out there. Their best receiver's not out there. They got guys who never even practice, and he puts up that kind of performance. The message is clear to the league. Number one, Green Bay can beat you on defense. They can kill you on with their offense and Aaron Rodgers. Like, who's the best team in the league? I don't know. Is it Green Bay? Is it San Francisco? I don't know, but they're in the conversation.
It's two things for me. One, you are seeing coach and quarterback see things the same way. It's almost like a conductor of a symphony where they're conducting, all the instruments are going together, and it's beautiful music. It started early on with getting the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands and making sure that this pass rush never became a part of this football game, and the distribution of the football continuing to be in positive situations. And then we saw a ton of big ball play action shots. And this is part of this offense right now, that the quarterback is listening to the play caller, and then the play caller in turn is listening to the quarterback, and you're getting efficient plays and then big balls down the field. And that's what Aaron Rodgers does best, is these big ball play action shots. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. Right now, this is the best offensive line in football. This is the best offensive line in football. No offensive line is protecting their quarterback more than the Green Bay Packers. And I want everyone to understand that. Think about that. You are now giving Aaron Rodgers the best protection in the league. We don't even know what this offense is about.
Okay, I don't necessarily agree with that. They are in the top 5 for sure, but I still like Dallas when they're healthy. But it is scary to think that, look, it's waited, we waited this long. Now it hits. How good can this team really be?
Right. They could be the best team in football.
Sure.
If that defense continues to play like that, they have weapons again. They're doing it without Adams. And if Rodgers is going to look like that, he plays himself into the MVP conversation yesterday.
You called this.
I
Remember
did.
In the spring you said that Rodgers was going to go on
a scorched earth tour. Yeah, because he sat back and he listened to all of us talking about Patrick Mahomes and this guy and that guy, and we ranked him somehow behind all these other Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. And to quote our beloved friend Stephen A., he's still a bad man. Meanwhile, the Bears are a bad team. Let's talk about that.
You're just bad, man.
This game is unwatchable. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky, listen, he's just coming back from the injury. You want to cut him some slack, that's entirely up to you. But Dan Orlovsky, he was flat terrible.
Yeah, I'm not going to go full McAfee on this one. He's definitely struggling. I think the biggest thing right now, Greeny, you'll see it here, is missing open receivers. This is the NFL. You make your money with open receivers, covered receivers, and third down. You have to hit these balls on a more consistent basis if you're Mitchell Trubisky.
Was anybody concerned with the fact he is coming off injury? You mentioned it. They never ran the football.
They didn't, but the Saints did.
Yes, they did.
Look at this creativity from New Orleans.
Incredible play design. They give it to a lateral fullback dive, and then the fullback runs the option off Floyd as a defensive end, and now you've got your Mr. Do-It-All, Taysom Hill, downhill in space.
And what's Hill going to do here? He's going to take it in for the score.
We've seen this screen before down on the goal line. You got some big bodies in front of Hill, throw it to him real quickly, and he's physical enough to get in the end zone.
And then finally, again, playing at home in a big game yesterday, coming off a bye, the Bears and their offense, Trubisky looked terrible.
Listen, this is 4th down. At worst case scenario, that ball is grenade launched over your head to make sure someone has a chance. Mitchell Trubisky really struggled.
So let's for a moment here just talk about Trubisky and try and be as reasonable as we can. Because people in Chicago are going to lose their minds because they traded up to draft him ahead of Mahomes and Watson. You can't undo that. But he doesn't have to look like that. What specifically are you seeing in him?
Yeah, his mechanics are terrible right now. His mechanics when it comes to his upper body matching his lower body are a disaster. And it's affecting his accuracy. And that's been the biggest question for Mitchell. And I've supported him in the past. But these misses are glaring misses where receivers are open and there's places to throw the football. And the accuracy is so far off where you don't see balls missed in the NFL 3, 4, 5 yards away from guys. And you've got a quarterback that's struggling physically and really for the great majority of the season is struggling mentally, and it's only going to get compounded by yesterday.
I see a guy with absolutely no confidence right now. So if I'm a coach, you got to understand this. You can't just throw it a million times like you did yesterday. How about run the football? It was an embarrassment. If Chicago Bears is supposed to be a tough town, your team needs to represent that. That means you need to pound the rock. And instead, you're putting it in a guy's hands that has zero confidence right now. Run the football, let him do some easier throws. That's how we played last year. He made some great runs last year. He made a couple of throws, but they were able to run the football and play great defense. By the way, if this defense isn't one of the most overrated defenses, they put themselves up with the 85 Bears, the 2000 Ravens. You're not even in the top 5 in the league this year, even though your ability is up here. Your play says something else. And to me, as bad as it stinks, don't you dare point fingers at this offense. Because a great defense beats the heck out of the New Orleans Saints with half a roster. You never showed up yesterday.
Pat McAfee said absolutely point fingers at the offense. In fact, maybe they should be fielding calls about bringing someone in like a Cam Newton.
Yes. And I'm glad we mentioned it. We didn't have time to address it. There's no chance of that. Ryan Pace is the man who's still the general manager who traded up to take Trubisky ahead of Mahomes and Watson. And this is the problem when you miss on a quarterback, right? Because if you do that, you will spend the next 5 years, 8 years chasing that mistake, trying to rectify it. There's no way they trade for Cam Newton or anybody else.
Greeny, nobody thought they missed last year. Everybody thought, oh, wow.
He was showing progress, like he was getting better.
Absolutely,
and
he's showing
all
progress.
Of a sudden,
but what happened?
Big regression.
You better figure out what the heck happened. And by the way, you don't have Vic, you certainly don't have Buddy Ryan coaching your defense. You don't have Vic Fangio. That defense is an embarrassment because their level is up here and they're playing way down here. They don't run the football. You got to look as a coach. You better look in the mirror first. Don't just put the blinders and stuff on. Look right in the mirror and put it on you. That this quarterback shouldn't be this bad. There's a reason why you traded up. There's a reason why you took him in the second overall pick.
Listen, I can't argue with a word that you were saying. Oh, by the way, the Saints looked great. And then let's get
yes, they did.
Real good.
Let's get to the Seahawks and Ravens. This was Earl Thomas returning to Seattle. By the way, he and Pete Carroll at one point walked past each other and no words were exchanged. Third quarter, score tied at 13 on a third down for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson keeping it himself.
This is such a big play in this game on 3rd and 15 to get down there and get some yardage where you force your coach to make a decision.
And they bring Justin Tucker out there on the 4th and 2, and then hold on. John Harbaugh says, wait a minute, I'm not kicking this thing. We're here to win a football game, and that's what they do.
Here comes quarterback power. Tight end, pull the guard around, and you get Lamar Jackson going downhill. And that drive was capped off by an absolutely dominant performance by Lamar.
Fourth quarter, Ravens up a touchdown, and Jackson, again, doesn't have anybody open. So you know what? He's just going to run 30 yards.
And yeah, another example of Lamar kind of trusting his instincts. No one's open. I don't need to hang back there. Do what I do best. Go make a run.
And then Russell Wilson, he came into this game as the leading candidate for MVP. He had a tough day yesterday. His teammates had a tough day yesterday. This is a Ravens defense that had a pick six earlier and now brings a fumble back for a score. So the Ravens win it by 2 touchdowns, a statement win on the road for Lamar Jackson and his team.
I had to change my cleats, and I had to change back to my originals. Like, I was running slow. I'm getting caught by the linebackers. I got to go back to my originals because ain't no way. Can't get caught by no linebackers.
Okay. So, well, I've known Rex Ryan for a really long time. You want to see this man happy? Let's talk about Lamar Jackson.
Oh, please, Greeny.
That's his thing.
Can we do the draft over again? Who's outplayed all of them? The guy that was picked last. Because why? He's got wins. He doesn't have to do it. Hey, I don't have to throw it a zillion times and all that. Lamar, just be you. This guy right here, if you're trying to defend somebody, I don't want to defend this. Why? Because it makes you play 11-on-11 football. And by the way, the best athlete on the field is Lamar Jackson, regardless of what field he goes to.
Yeah, yesterday, watching Lamar was different, though, for me yesterday. Like, watching Lamar, I saw 2 things. 1, incredible competitive spirit. And 2, he took the football game over, really, 3rd quarter, 4th quarter. I want everyone to watch this sequence. Watch the energy. He wants the ball snap. This is the delay of game. And it looks like he's flipping out on his center. He's not. He's just so passionate right there. I love the leadership. Then this is this 3rd and 18 where they call a run. There's no other team in the NFL that can call that on 3rd and 18 to get to a 4th and 2 where Harbaugh then sends the field goal unit out, brings it back, and they call this quarterback power. Like, to me, this was a really big moment for Lamar Jackson. I'm sure people watch that moment on that delay of game and go like, oh, look at this childish behavior by Lamar. No. That was leadership and passion in that moment. And then, like, the takeover where he was just like, I got it. Just, I'll put the game on my back. And it was really impressive by him.
I don't want to get all Rodney Dangerfield on you guys, but he said it a couple times. You said it too. We say that it's a statement win for Lamar Jackson like 6 times a season. At what point are we just going to say this kid's good and stop with the, well, we'll see if it's sustainable.
Well, because
we'll see if it's sustainable.
There's a question. We just had this, the stats are up. Right. He was 9 of 20 for 143 yards.
Doesn't matter.
Can you win championships in the National Football League today with your quarterback going 9 of 20?
Evaluate a quarterback on wins and losses.
No.
And by the way, there are different ways of doing it. To me, and you know, is this the first time you saw something in this game? I saw it 2 years he should have won back-to-back Heisman trophies.
Yeah.
That's when I saw it. He took a horrible Louisville team, how are they playing now, and beat the dog out of almost everybody played outside of Clemson, of course. And so to me, I see a phenomenal competitor. I couldn't agree with you more, Dan. When he got there and spiked that ball, that was awesome. And you know what? The head coach feels it as well.
All right.
Yeah.
I I don't want to. I have to take a short break here. We have much more to do as our morning continues. 3 weeks ago, Kirk Cousins was getting blasted by his own teammates.